Hello. Today I wanted to talk about a topic that's been occurring in the news cycle with more frequency recently. I started following the UAP discussion topic back in 2023 when I first saw the first UAP congressional hearing on YouTube with testimonies from David Grush, Ryan Graves, and David Fravor. 2023 was an interesting year for news because the two biggest stories of that year that I started following were AI and UAP news. I treat these two topics with utmost importance because I think other forms of intelligence, like artificial and non-human intelligence, are the two biggest issues that humanity is ever going to face and deal with. The problem when approaching this topic is, one, a lack of smoking gun evidence, and two, the decades of disinformation and misinformation disseminated by intelligence agencies to muddy the waters and obfuscate the truth surrounding this phenomenon. So for the skeptics that are already rushing to their keyboards to dismiss me as a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, it needs to be stated that our government and our military has had an intense interest in this topic for decades, and we've spent millions of dollars of your taxpayer money to study this unidentified phenomenon. Let me start by explaining the reasons why the government would have reason to suppress this information. Let's start with the assumption that these whistleblowers from military intelligence agencies like David Grush and Luis Elizondo are telling the truth and that the government has actively been covering up the true nature of this phenomenon. Why? Why would the government do this? Why would they lie to us? If unknown objects of likely non-human origin are entering our airspaces, vastly performing any technology our government and military currently has, and in some cases, even entering nuclear weapons facilities and deactivating nuclear weapons, this would pose a massive risk to national security, especially considering there's absolutely nothing that they could do about it. That's not something very comforting you would want to hear from your government. On that note, there is a documented positive correlation between UFO/UAP encounters and nuclear facilities. If you're skeptical, you can research this yourself. It's well documented historically. People that we are trusting with nuclear weapons are reporting this unexplained phenomena, whereas other parts of the government are saying this is unscientific, unfounded, and there's nothing to it. If there's nothing more to this, why are we trusting people with nuclear weapons who claim that it's real? That should be a big red flag to anybody, that if this is a bunch of nonsense, and yet high-ranking military officials are reporting these encounters, why would we allow these people to be in charge of our nuclear weapons? So for those that have been following the news cycle surrounding this, the U.S. government, under the direction of the Trump administration, in an effort to provide unprecedented transparency surrounding this topic, has begun the process of identifying information surrounding this topic, declassifying it, and releasing it to the public on a rolling basis on the website war.gov/UFO. I've been downloading the files every time more have been released and examining the contents. And right now, it seems like we are still at the stage of disclosure where the government is trying to ensure that plausible deniability is in place. What is plausible deniability, and why would our government use this information tactic? Plausible deniability is the ability to say in a way that is possibly true that you did not know that this is the case. Mostly what we have gotten so far in the declassified documents as of mid-June has raised more questions than answers. The videos are all blurry, vague, and you can't make a definitive statement on what you're seeing based on the information provided. Yet these cases remain unexplained, and the government has not provided a statement regarding what they believe this phenomena might be. What I think is particularly interesting about the files, and this should cause anybody to question the government's official narrative, is that it just goes to show that our government has been intensely interested in researching this topic since at least the 1940s, and spending millions of dollars to continue researching something that they claim isn't real and doesn't exist. If this doesn't exist, there's nothing to it, and we should believe that they're not hiding anything, then where is this money going? Why do we continue to study this? For those skeptics who still insist that this is all too far-fetched and conspiratorial, I want to know where you suddenly got so much faith in your government's ability to tell the truth. We have declassified information confirming that the Central Intelligence Agency had a compartmentalized, secretive program where they studied mind control by administering psychedelic drugs like LSD to subjects without their consent and then observing their behavior. This is true, it's well documented, and went on in secrecy for 20 years. I don't think that these skeptics realize how good the government is at compartmentalization, classifying information, and promoting disinformation, especially if it is something highly classified because it poses a massive risk to national security. So we already know we shouldn't trust the government, and we already know that whistleblowers have come forward saying this is true, despite that going against the official narrative. When we look at the amount of credible accounts from military and intelligence officials, this isn't something that can be easily ignored or swept under the rug. It's almost like one part of the government is trying to blow the whistle, sound the alarms, and raise awareness about this topic, whereas another part of the government is saying that there is nothing to this and we should just accept that official narrative, despite them still continuing to spend money and time studying it. The reason why I feel the need to talk about this and raise awareness is partly to reduce the stigma surrounding the topic by continuing this conversation, but also because if this is all true, I think that information would be an ontological shock on par with the Copernican revolution and Darwinian revolution, both of which completely changed the way that we look at our place in the universe. This would be literally the biggest story of our lifetimes, and that's why I think it's important that we continue talking about this topic and reducing the stigma. It is my belief, and I think there are good reasons to think this is the case, that the United States government is sitting on smoking gun evidence of non-human intelligence, but instead of just dumping the evidence and admitting that we've been lied to for the past 80 years, they're kind of just stringing us along saying, yeah, there's something there that we've been studying for a long time, but we don't have enough data to confirm the nature of this phenomenon. Again, plausible deniability. Reality should not be classified. Thank you for watching.